I'm teaching you today how to grow your personal brand value. And our agenda is, I'm going to tell you who I am, a little bit more than what Natalie said, and just my credentials on why I'm up here talking to you today. We're going to go through a personal brand checklist. I was an FMI delegate in 2010 and 11. So what I've done is I've put together everything that I really wanted to learn and like step by step what you should start with and then do next. So it kind of gives you a 1, 2, 3 instead of there's so much to learn, where do I start? I'm going to give you my toolbox and how I manage my personal brand. We're going to talk a little bit about authentic social media presence. And then we're going to talk about some monetization options. I'm going to give you an overview of how I've monetized my personal brand, and then I'll show you a couple of case studies on some really great people in the industry that are doing it in different ways as well. And then I've got a little bit of homework for you at the end. So who am I? I've personally branded myself as an alpha female when I started. So I have 2 careers. I'm actually a marketing manager for Kobo, which is the Kindle equivalent. We're not that great in the US yet. So I'm a global marketing manager. So I work around the world on getting our brand out there. And then I've also called myself a fitness talent and personality. So I do a lot of things, and I had to kind of organize it at the beginning. I'm a blogger over at robynbaldwin.com. I'm a brand ambassador through my social media network. I work with several different companies. I'm a sponsored athlete, so I signed a sponsorship with Magnum Nutraceuticals 3 years ago. I'm also a Fitfluential ambassador, published fitness model and a freelance writer for magazines around the world. I'm an author. I have my own ebook and I'm working on a full-length novel this year. I'm a personal trainer. I have my spin instructor certification, as well as I started coaching beginner runners this year. I'm a former CFL cheerleader. In Canada, that's your NFL. And then I'm a former fitness competitor as well. And now I've turned just weightlifter, runner. I'm obsessed with obstacle course races and yoga. And I'm a big bookworm. So this is kind of me in a nutshell in bullet points. So I've kind of organized it this way. And then when I go through the personal brand checklist, I've kind of said, I do all these things. How do I properly organize that so I can tell people, whether it's on my website, whether it's through social media, how to organize it? So here's kind of the start of your checklist. Everyone should have a biography. It may live in a resume. It may live in your About Me section on your website. But this is something that is everything. It's every single word you can ever write down about yourself. It's a lot of information. Not everyone's going to read it, but you should have it living somewhere. So for me, I have it on my website in the About Me section. Your next step to personal branding should be to have a personal brand statement. So this is something, if you were to get into an elevator with me and had to explain what you do in 30 seconds, that's that statement. So I'm going to give you examples for me personally because that's easiest for me to explain. And then while you're thinking about this, at the end of this session, I'm going to ask for a couple of volunteers to actually come up and introduce yourselves to me and try to do a 30-second elevator speech. And then we're going to go through value proposition. So this is, I do all these things, I'm posting stuff on social media, I don't really know what's working yet, what is going to monetize my brand? So your value proposition is really kind of defining what that is, and I'm going to show you several different ways you can actually organize it. So it's a way to actually organize your content. And there's, again, different tools that I'll show you. And then we're going to talk point of difference. So we're all in the fitness industry, and there's different kind of categories. You have to kind of define what is making you different that's going to make you stand out. Some people call it like the purple cow in several different branding books. I like to call it, because I'm bilingual, le je ne sais quoi factor. So you have to define that as well. Then, how will you tell your story? We'll talk a little bit about platforms. I've geared this speech to include everything from if you are starting out on social media, whether you have an established brand. So we'll go over everything so that you should find something useful within this section. And then we'll talk about monetizing flow. So this is, you've got all this social media, you've got your personal brand, you're telling your story. How are you actually monetizing it and optimizing it? So this is the checklist, and I'm actually going to give you a freebie at the end of the presentation that you can print off and take home as well. Okay, so this is my biography. A lot of this information, I'm not going to read it all out again. It was all in those bullet points. So as I organize myself and my About Me section on my website, I'm like, how do I explain who I am, what I've done, where I've started? So that's usually at the top is who I am and what I've done. And then what are my credentials, what are the things, my accolades, what are my titles? I've put that in there. And then because I'm in the fitness industry and I call myself a fitness personality, what do I do on a daily basis? So I talk a lot about my racing, my obstacle course racing, and things like that. So I try to make sure anyone that comes to my website is aware of what I do. So that's your biography. So one of your homework pieces that I'd love for you to do later on is actually take a look at it, whether it lives on your resume or whether it lives on your website, and see if it's actually up to date. Is it something you can kind of work on over this weekend? Then your personal brand statement. So when I introduce people, I always tell them that I'm an alpha female and that I've created this kind of two-career business for myself. So I'm a marketing manager by day and a fitness talent by morning, noon, and night in every spare second of my day. And I really enjoy having two careers and I strive for work-life balance. So everything that I put out there into the world is basically showing people how I work full-time as well as get health and fitness and the ability to love life into my day. So why do you need to know your value proposition? This is really something that, as you increase the volume of user engagement on your social media specifically, or whether it's your website, you increase your return on influence. So the more people you influence and actually pay attention to what you're putting out there, obviously it'll start to increase the revenue available per follower. So if you have 20 people that follow you and they are hardcore fans of you and you can monetize those 20 people, then that's amazing. That's amazing because that's 20 new people, new revenue customers. But as you slowly grow that, obviously you're growing your audience and who's available. So I call value proposition really how to organize your content. And there's 6 buckets that I like to put things into. So there's education. Then there's entertainment, inspiration, information. Education and information are very similar. There's something exclusive, and then there's reciprocation. So to understand this value proposition, I'll go through what I do. So again, you can kind of just see the examples. And this is really easy to do. If you go to big brand names, you'll be able to see just from looking at their Instagram profile, all their value proposition, because that's what they're putting out there into the world.